All right, what's up, guys? Today I want to go over the bidding process. I own a Facebook group called Junk Removal for Beginners, and in that group, we're up to about 16,000 members now. In that group, I'm constantly seeing, I'd say probably 85% of the posts are, hey, what would you bid for this? What would you bid for that? Where do you guys think I need to land on this? And it's a combination of junk jobs, it's a combination of demo jobs. But what I'm seeing is a real lack of confidence in the bidding process. And I can level with it. The group is called Junk Removal for Beginners. So when you're getting going in this business, when you're getting going in really any service business, bidding, saying your price, it's one of the most intimidating things. So I can level with my understanding, and now being somewhat of a veteran and having landed hundreds, probably over 1,000 jobs at this point. There's still times where I'm afraid to go through the bidding process. I'm kind of afraid to give the number, or I'm looking for other people's opinions. So we see that in the group. I also see that with some of my students. So I wanted to just go over a process that I built out today that has allowed me to do a few things. So those three things are, it's number one, this process that I built out, it helps you with three things. So number one, it's going to help you land more jobs. All right. Number two, and I want to make sure, let me check this real quick. Yeah, it's good. Okay. Number two, you want to see an increase in our average ticket price. Fit that. An increase in our average ticket price. And then the third thing, and this is actually the most important thing. Well, all three of them are important, but you want to retain clients. Retaining clients. If you can retain clients with an average ticket price and you have a higher conversion rate, you're going to see here's my cap again. This happened in the last video. You're going to see your revenue go up, your acquisition costs go down, which is obviously going to increase your profit. So that's the three goals. Like when I lay out the bidding process, when I go into a bid, this is the three things. Especially if it's somebody new. This really only pertains to a client that you're meeting for the first time. It's like, okay, here's the goal. We'll get more jobs out of them. We want to have a higher ticket price, and when we will be able to retain them as a client. So there's a framework that is very known in business, and it's the know, like, and trust framework. If you go into a bid and these people already know you, they already like you, or they already trust you, then you're golden. It should be really easy to land that bid. But what I'm going to go through today, these 5 steps that I have, is what if they don't know you? What if they don't like you? Or they don't like you because they don't know you, and they don't trust you because they don't know you, or whatever it may be. So if none of those three apply, this is the process that I use to be able to achieve these 3 goals. So number one, and this is, by the way, this is on the site. So you've already talked with them on the phone. You've booked a time to go out to visit them on site. You're now at the site. You're greeting them for the first time. So outside of being personable and all that good stuff, this is kind of the 5 things. Obviously, you don't want to just greet them and start going right into this. Have a conversation. Start building a little bit of rapport. But one of the first things you want to do is you want to get clear on the scope. So what does that mean? The scope is everything that they want you to do, everything that's going to pertain to that job. So you want to get clear on the scope with them. And the way to do that is you want to make sure you're asking them a ton of questions. You're giving them an opportunity to respond. So you're using the 2 ears, 1 mouth principle of listening more than you talk. And then after you get clear on the scope, or after they've done everything, one thing that I like to do is I like to reiterate the scope back to them. And in this process, it's going to show that, number 1, you were listening. Number 2, you know what you're talking about. And number 3, you're now starting to build a little bit of trust with them. And as you build that trust, they're more likely going to be able to be more comfortable adding things to the scope, which is going to help you get a higher average ticket price, be able to make more revenue on that one job. So number 1, get clear on the scope here. Let's see here. Number 2, the second thing here, so I want you to discuss your approach. So what I mean by this is, that kind of looks like a P. What I mean by this is when I say discuss your approach is, I want you to tell them exactly how you're going to do the job. This may sound silly, it may sound stupid, especially for some simple junk removal jobs, but I want you to get super clear with them on, hey, this is how we're going to do this. If it's a couch in the back corner of a basement, you're going to say, I'm going to have 2 guys show up to the job. We're going to make sure that we put down any side protection we need so we don't nick up any walls. And then we're going to carry it up the basement. We're going to measure the doorways so we make sure that we don't nick any doorways. Carry it out the front door. We're going to have to park our truck in the street because our truck has an oil leak right now, and we don't want to be getting any oil in your driveway. Discuss approach. It's that simple. Number 3. Third thing you want to do here is use social proof. Social proof. This is so crucial. And I like to use social proofs while I'm discussing approach. So a social proof, we'll go back to the couch in the basement example. As you're discussing the approach, I would say something along the lines of, you know what, we actually removed a couch from somebody's basement last week, and as we were doing it, we noticed that the doorways were a little bit too narrow, so we actually had to take the couch apart in the basement. Something real simple like that that's going back to building trust. So use a social proof. Number 4, the 4th thing I like to do, after I've done these 3 things, now I'm getting to the point where I discuss pricing. And my pricing strategy and discussing pricing is somewhat unique, I think. And the other thing, and before I get into pricing a little bit, the other thing I would like to say about pricing here is I like to put off discussing the price as long as I possibly can. I know we kind of we're jumping into 5 quick steps here, but while you're doing this, you need to be a salesman. You need to be building rapport with them. You need to be trying to engage them so that they feel like they know you, feel like they like you, feel like they trust you. Specifically, these 2, like and trust. So we're kind of jumping into clear steps here, and I'm going a little bit quick through them. But this process should take a while. Like, especially if this is let's say this is a bigger demo job, then you should be talking about the scope for 10 to 15 minutes. You should be discussing approach on how that you would, let's say it's a kitchen demo, on how you would remove the cabinets, making sure you're saying things along the lines of, we're not those guys that you see on TV. The guys you see on TV come in with sledgehammers and big crowbars and they start making a big mess. That's the exact opposite of who we are. While you're discussing that approach, using a bunch of social proofs so that you're going back to making them like you, making them trust you. And specifically is trust. Like will come later. No, they'll come after you do a few jobs for them. So the 4th thing here, let's get into discussing pricing. And what I said with pricing there, is I like to push off the pricing conversation as long as I possibly can. And a good key to know that if you've built these things by going through this process is if they ask you what your schedule looks like before you even talk about price. That means that you did that right, and that's the goal. By the end of this conversation, they should be trying to sell you. They should be trying to schedule you without even worrying about what the price is going to be. So when it comes to discussing pricing, there's a few things I like to do. 1, I like to put them off as long as I can, like I said. Number 2, I like to get it out of them first, and I do this in a strategy where it's rapport building. So I'll say something along the lines of, hey, you know what? We really want to build a relationship with you. It's super important to us. We like to retain clients. We like to work for a small knit group of people, folks that we really like to work for. So obviously I'm a business owner. This has to make money for me, but where do you have to be on your budget for this to make sense? Try to get that price out of them. The reason I like to get that price out of them is 1, if you obviously are going to have some type of number in your mind, and we'll say, let's say the number that you have in your mind is $500 for the job, and you use that verbiage and they really like it and they say 100. Now you know that you have to, you're $400 off there. Now you know that your job is to justify why you need to be at $500. Oh, I pay my guys this, and the dump fees are going to be this, and our opportunity costs. We could be doing other jobs, whatever it may be. So you're going to have to justify why you can get to that number. Also, the other thing there is, if you would have said $500 when they were thinking 100, all of this would have been wiped away, because now you know that they're probably a value shopper, and if they're a value shopper, then all they care about is price. So if you say $500 and they're expecting 100, everything that you said about before is going to be completely gone. They're not going to care about it. All they're going to think about is, oh man, this is $400 off than what I thought. So, so if they go low, that's good. If they go high, let's say they go 1,000 for whatever reason, congratulations. Just by asking a simple question, you made $500. Or you've got an opportunity to build some rapport with them and say, hey, you know what? I think we can get this done for $600. I think 1,000's a little bit too high. Then you want to talk about trust. You know, they're really going to be trusting you after that. So the fourth thing there is I like to talk about price. I like to get out of them first. If you can't get out of them, especially for junk removal jobs, I always go with a volume-based approach. That way you're never going to underbid. So let's say it's you know, you're expecting it to be about 10 yards and you tell them it'll be $50 per yard. You can tell them, you know, it's a rough estimate, it's going to be $50 a yard. We're estimating 10 yards. It's looking like about $500. And then it goes up, it's actually 20 yards. Well, now you can say, you know what, Mr. Customer, you know, we want to make it make sense for you, but you know, we did say $50 a yard. This is now looking like it's going to be closer to $1,000. You're going to be able to justify that because you gave them that value pricing. The third thing is if they are really strict and they want you to give a price on the spot, just be confident with it. I tell my guys, the ones that I coach and also the guys that work for me, I'd rather you be confident and make a mistake than not have the confidence to make that mistake. I want them to be given that pricing. I want them to feel like, I want them to get comfortable doing it so that they can grow as, you know, as employees and as, you know, business owners for the students and to be able to progress up in the company. So let's say you went through that pricing strategy and you didn't get a yes out of them. This is the last thing I do. I ask for the last look. There are just some people out there, there are some customers out there that are always going to go out and get 2 to 3 bids. That's just who they are. That's just, you know, it is what it is. If you're the first one there, it's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. So if you went through this whole process, you've discussed pricing, they still say no, I always say, hey, you know what? If you think we did a good job, if you think that we'll do a good job for you, and I'm confident that we will, I'd love to have the opportunity to get last look and see if we can match the lowest price. I would be surprised if you did this process really well. I'd be surprised if they weren't willing to do that. So there's the 5 steps that I like to use when it comes to bidding. Inside the service ascension, the mentorship that we have, we go into a lot more depth about this. In fact, every single job that I bid, I make a video on it, on how I bid it, why I bid it, what it's at, our expected costs, our expected yardage, our expected labor hours, all that stuff. So we go into a ton of detail there, but build the clear scope, discuss your approach, use social proofs as you're discussing the approach, then discuss pricing, try to get it out of them first if you can. If you can't agree, then ask for last look. That is all great, but there's one thing, I can't find my thing, it's okay. There's one thing that if for whatever reason you're on a bid and you get nervous or whatever it is, and you forget all of that, there's one thing that you need to do. This, do not forget. Always go back. All I need to do, if I forget the process, if I get the steps, all you need to do is build credibility. Everything that we talked about here, talking about the scope builds credibility, discussing the approach builds credibility, using social proofs builds credibility, talking about how you value a relationship builds credibility, saying, hey, you know what, we value the relationship so much, I understand that you need to get the best price possible, can we have last look? That is also building credibility. If you forget everything, think, hey, you know what, my number one job here is to build credibility with the customer. I'm pretty confident, and I can say this from experience, if you follow these steps, you're going to achieve these 3 goals of landing more jobs, having higher average ticket price, and being able to retain more clients. At the end of this process, they're going to want to be scheduling you before you even talk about price. We'll see you on the other side.